What up, world? What up, world? I finally finished the series. So we're going to chop it up about these last 4 episodes of the Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action Netflix version. Let's get it. Alright, so we're just going to get straight into it. I finally finished the last 4 episodes of this series. I'm going to save my judgment to the end of this video. Let's just start with episode 5. First of all, welcome back to the channel. Episode 5. Episode 5. Episode 5. Episode 5 starts out with Aang and the gang running away from some enemies, and they end up stumbling across a destroyed forest, straight out of the OG original series. They end up stumbling across a burnt forest, and of course, Avatar being connected, Aang being the Avatar, and the Avatar being connected to the spiritual realm, as well as the physical, as well as nature. Of course, it hurts his heart to see when stuff is just needlessly destroyed. So, with that being said, we have a little nice sentimental moment where Katara encourages him by handing him an acorn, just showing him that life can still sprout out of destruction. Then they end up stumbling into a village. The village is being terrorized by some spirits, and they're mysteriously losing people to the spirit realm. And so, of course, Aang being the Avatar, he goes and tries to check it out. And this is where it gets interesting for me. With this episode, I wasn't a big fan of this episode, if you can't tell already. This particular episode frustrated me because of how much of the spirit realm they tried to cram into this one episode. If anybody who's actually seen the OG original series, you know, throughout the first season, it's multiple different episodes where, and not even just throughout the first season, but throughout the entire series, there's multiple episodes dedicated to Aang and the spirit world, or Aang finding out about the spirit world, or having different encounters in the spirit world. This was the first encounter where he really went in depth and got to see a spirit of the forest and got to see different things in the spirit world. So it low-key frustrated me watching this episode, because I'm like, they're throwing a lot into this episode that they didn't have to do. They had Ko in there. He wasn't in there in the OG original series. And I get it. It's a live action adaptation. I already said in the first video, it's going to be a lot of things that they end up on the cutting room floor. I get it. However, wasn't a fan of this episode. It was too much going on. I appreciate the character growth that they gave Sokka and Katara. In the OG original series, it was only Sokka who got captured into the spirit realm. It wasn't Katara. But I appreciate the little subtle change that they did in that. I didn't like the fact that they had the owl spirit from the ancient library in book 2 in the spirit realm. I'm just like, why is he here at this particular point in time? What is going on? I'm confused. And then they had the spirit of the forest, but they didn't really, they spent like 5 minutes on the spirit of the forest, and then they kept moving on. And then they switched to Ko being the one who's snatching all the souls. And I'm like, though he is a soul snatcher, he's not the reason why people are going missing. What is happening? So yeah, it was just a lot for me. It was a lot for me. They introduced a fox spirit, which ended up being Princess Yuhei, so I wasn't mad at that. And I actually kind of liked that part. I actually kind of liked what they did with that, with Yuhei and Sokka. That was cool. They introduced, on Iroh and Zuko's side, they introduced the bounty hunter. Her animal was phenomenal. Well done. So through this journey in the spirit realm, Aang meets Ko. Ko clearly has some animosity towards avatars based on Avatar in his past that Aang doesn't have any idea about, because he doesn't know what's going on at this point. He's only 12. And this being his first tap into the spirit realm, yeah. Anywho, so he flies to he ends up leaving his friends at the forest because they got trapped, and ends up flying to Avatar Roku's statue in the Fire Nation. Going to his temple, went to his statue, meditated in front of it, got to speak to Avatar Roku, and was able to gain some wisdom, understand how to defeat Ko, understand why Ko was mad. And it was interesting because so he got to understand why Ko was mad, and he got to understand why Ko was mad, and he got the answer on how to get his friends untrapped from the spirit realm and to save the people in the village, and how to defeat Ko. And so he ends up trying to leave the temple, gets caught by the bounty hunter. Now he's locked up. Now he's locked up in the prison that Zhao's running. And right out of the OG animation, right out of the OG show, Aang does get locked up, and he does visit the fire Roku's temple, and he does get to speak with Roku. The difference in the OG, when he goes to visit Roku, that's when Roku tells him about Sozin's Comet. That's when he informs him about Sozin's Comet and tells him that he needs to learn each element expeditiously because Sozin's Comet is coming, and that's going to be a problem. So, with that being said, episode 5 for me wasn't it. It was just too much that they tried to cram in for my liking, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. Episode 6 was actually a really good episode. It's crazy how you go from a really bad episode to you, and then the next episode you're like, oh, this is actually pretty decent. So episode 6 was actually a decent episode. Of course, it was the episode where Zuko puts on the blue mask and rescues Aang from the prison that Zhao locked him up in. Executed phenomenally. I really appreciated that. I love the character growth in Zuko. We got to see a very small amount of Aang's personality in this episode. I wish we could have gotten more of that throughout the season, but unfortunately, it was only a very small amount in this particular episode. But outside of that, I thought the story was executed nicely. He ends up making it. Zuko ends up rescuing him from the prison. They end up going their separate ways because Zuko's still tripping. And Aang's able to rescue not only the villagers, but also Sokka and Katara. And they're able to continue on their journey. And he's able to defeat Ko, or give Ko what he wanted so Ko can let the people go. So yeah, that to me, that episode 6 was executed very well for the story that they were trying to tell. It was executed very well in my opinion. Episode 7 and 8, I gotta give it to him. Silent golf claps. Episode 7 and 8 were solid. They were some solid episodes. That's how you finish strong, is what I will say. Episode 7 and 8 were really good to me. They finally make it to the Northern Water Tribe, and we get introduced to the head waterbending teacher in the Northern Water Tribe and the leader of the Northern Water Tribe. And my only complaint about episode 7 and 8 is the fact that the waterbending master in the Northern Water Tribe wasn't as much of a prick as he was in the OG original series. And the OG original series, he was here for the smoke. He was here for the smoke, and he was not having it. No women in his village, no women in his sight was going to waterbend and fight. So that was, I wish he would have stood on business in the live action the way he stood on business in the animated show, because that just made Katara's contrast and stance against him that much more potent. But I respect what they did in the actual live action. It was cool. It wasn't it wasn't as much of a push and pull as I would have liked, because they really went for it in the animated series. So in live action, it was kind of just like, well, nah, well, we need all the help we can get, so come on. And it was just like, all right. I mean, they did fight. That fight was a little. That fight was a little. It was a little hit or miss for me. That fight between the waterbending master and Katara was a little hit or miss for me. But episode 7, we get introduced to Princess Yuhei. Sokka, of course, smitten, smitten off top. We get introduced to her former fiance with the arranged marriage. Apparently, they changed it. Instead of them still being engaged, she actually broke it off. So that was interesting. Not too mad about that change. Then, of course, the story progresses. The Fire Nation invades, and Katara and Sokka try to stop them. They destroy one boat, and then they realize there's a whole fleet coming, and they are not prepared to destroy a whole fleet. And yeah, so episode 7, Zhao, of course, has his own motives. He thinks he killed Zuko, but he didn't. Zuko was able to evade his assassination attempt and is infiltrating the Northern Water Temple on his own to try to capture the Avatar so Zhao can't get him. Good old Zuko. Good old Zuko. But yeah, it was just, it was, to me, 7 and 8 were really good episodes. Of course, 8, Zhao's plan unfolds and he kills the moon spirit and all hell breaks loose. All hell breaks loose when he kills the moon spirit, and Aang snaps and uses the spirit of the ocean to destroy the entire fleet, save the Northern Water Tribe, and just went crazy to the point where he didn't know he was going to be able to come back. But of course, thanks to Princess Yuhei's sacrifice, he was able to come back. And with him coming back, she is now stuck as the new representation of the moon spirit. And yeah, she sacrificed her life so that she could save the Avatar and bring balance back to nature, which was, it was dope. It was beautifully executed. The fight was dope. Aang walking through the Northern Water Tribe like a watery Godzilla was dope. It was executed well. This is how you finish strong. This is how you finish strong, Netflix. This is how you finish strong. So yeah, those are the last 4 episodes. So now we're going to get into some interesting topics. So my 3 MVPs for this entire series: Sokka, Zuko, and Iroh. Those are the 3 people it feels like we spend the most time with, personality wise and personal growth wise. Those are the 3 that we see the most growth in throughout the entirety of the series. To me, in my opinion, I would like to see Katara grow more. We saw her grow, but not as much as Zuko, Iroh, and Sokka. And I would like to actually see more of Aang's personality. Like this whole first season, because they flew through so much plot. And when I say they flew through so much plot, they flew through a lot of plot. Come on now, Netflix. Relax. Slow it down. You don't have to fly through that much plot, bro. Y'all flying through more plot than... Y'all flying through plot quicker than it taking Sony to drop these terrible movies. Nobody asked for Madam Web. That's neither here nor there. Flying through plot. Y'all are flying through plot quicker than Sony. Y'all flying through more plot. Y'all are flying through plot quicker than it takes Sony to turn around and drop these terrible movies. No one asked for Madam Web. But anyway, they flew through a lot of plot, especially when it comes to like the spiritual world and just the different character growth. And I just really, I really just really want to see more of Aang's personality. shine through in future seasons, because it was a lot of we felt him ducking his responsibility as the Avatar. We felt him feeling guilty for ducking his responsibility as the Avatar, and we felt all of these things. But it's like, at the end of the day, in the original animated series, Aang was still 12 at the end of the day. He was still a child, so he still wanted to have fun. He still was cracking jokes. He still was going around, flying around, and was ready for smoke, and was ready to play, and was ready to. He wasn't here for, especially in book one, he wasn't really here for the responsibility. He eventually got to it, but the way they portrayed Aang in this first season, he was either running away from his responsibility, or he was all business and feeling guilty that he was running away from all his responsibility. It's just like, there's more to Aang than just that. Where's his playfulness? Where's his childlike innocence? Like, I just want to see more of Aang's personality in future seasons. So, like I said, my 3 MVPs are Sokka, Zuko, and Iroh. I love the development. I love the growth. I love how much of them we got to spend time with. Netflix, if you're listening, in future seasons, you don't have to fly through the plot like this. Y'all could have legit. Y'all only doing 8 episodes, even though they're 40 minutes to an hour. Y'all only doing 8 episodes. If it's 20-something episodes a season, y'all could break that in half, do half a book a season. We here for it. We see that the bending is phenomenal. We see the set design, the costume design, the casting is good. You have potential to drop something phenomenal on your hands. Right now, you're sitting in the middle right now. There's a lot of potential there, though. Slow it down. Take your time. You flew through book 1 to the point where Aang ain't even learned how to waterbend yet. Book 1 is water. He ain't even learned how to waterbend yet. What are we doing? You don't have to fly through the plot like that. Relax. Take your time. You could have separated season 1 could have been the first half of book 1. Season 2 could have been the second half of book 1, and so on and so forth. So now that you've completed all of book 1 to your liking, slow it down for season 2. Break it up. Let's spend more time with these characters. Let's spend more time with getting to know this cast. The casting is good. We like Zuko. We like Iroh. We like Sokka. We like Aang and the gang. Slow it down. Let us fall in love with these characters on the big screen. Let us fall in love with these characters. We already love them as animated characters. Let us fall in love with them in the live action. That's my only request. So what would I rate this out of 10 for Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action Netflix series? Because of the strong finish, I'm gonna give it a 7. I was in between 6.5, 7. I'm gonna give it a 7. A 7 out of 10. You did a good job. It's definitely nowhere near as bad as people are trying to make it out to be. You did a good job. It was a solid live action adaptation. It wasn't as good as One Piece, but One Piece is an anomaly, and Oda was heavily involved. The creators of Avatar weren't as heavily involved in this by the time they started shooting. So you kind of got what you got. But slow it down in future seasons, and I guarantee you have the potential, Netflix, to do something legendary in the live action adaptation realm. Please take your time. Please take your time. And remember, it's free soul to the soul free.